You're very eager to talk about this DC, so I'm not going to hold you back any longer. Tony White, let's go.
Tony White from Nebraska. I don't think it's gone official yet, but per all the sources everywhere, he is going to be the next defensive coordinator for Florida State University. Number one thing I'll start off with is $1.6 million is what Nebraska was paying him. So that means, like I was just saying there with Gus Malzahn was not going to be cheap on the offensive side. Defensively, it might be a little bit more expensive. I don't know. We'll see when the numbers come out. But this is a younger coach coming in, not crazy young, but I think now I'm going to get myself in trouble. Now I'm going to get myself in trouble if I give it age. But I'm going to say a younger coach in the industry coming in. No, do not say an age, because then I'm going to get killed by probably some of my family members. But coming in to a team, to Florida State, that I think is yearning for kind of a reset button on every position group on that side of the ball, except for that defensive backs coach with Coach Surtain, who has really given some life, definitely on the recruiting trail, but just also to developing and getting those guys playing better there in the secondary. But definitely some reset and some markets of the defensive line, which we would like to see better play from, which, looking at what he's been able to do, Tony White at Nebraska, very, very, very heavy and bringing some pressure to some quarterbacks, getting to the backfield, and also containing the run there. And you add that in with linebackers, with Randy Shannon. I can't say previously because nothing official there yet, but I would expect some change there in the linebacker room as well. There's definitely to a D end, and that's a major focus now, and football overall, definitely even the college football level, getting getting some pressure to the quarterbacks. Tony White has really been a coach that has grown and has a lot of transfers that could be coming with him from Nebraska, and there's already some guys that have entered the transfer portal there. Interested to see if that's just because they know a little bit ahead of everybody else and know that he's heading down to Tallahassee. But there's some things that I think, just FSU personnel wise, that things might need to adjust to, just because of the different kind of scheme that he likes to bring. But, one crazy stat right here is Nebraska. They did not allow one rushing touchdown at home this entire season. They also gave some major fits to Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter there, and Deion Sanders' squad at Colorado was all over Shedeur Sanders and hitting him and survive. And really, watching that game, I'm surprised that he stayed alive during that game. It was impressive of how he stayed out there on the field, which is how much Nebraska was getting after him. But, this is a team or a defensive side of the ball that does not allow a lot of rushing too as well. Something that FSU fans are like yearning to have. Okay, let's have a lockdown rush game defense, something that we saw throughout this entire season. Florida State getting gashed left and right, and it's kind of been that way for Florida State. And you go back to third and fullers that we've been dealing with since his tenure here. You're looking for some stops and some defensive takeaways more than anything, too. Florida State lacking in that as well. That's why they moved into where Florida State had to move on from Adam Fuller. And two, like I was just saying there, Odell Hagan's absolute FSU legend, both on the field and off the field. That might be kind of where he's headed, is to more of an off the field role. Interested to see what Mike Norvell and the Seminoles do in the administration, because I think you are looking for a younger coach to come in. Nebraska has one of those who I've heard phenomenal things. Just seeing what Nebraska Twitter saying, you can usually evaluate what kind of coach you're getting just going off of the fan base's reaction and them not wanting to lose them. And these two guys that potentially, we know White is coming in, but some of these other assistant coaches, there's definitely a fan base that does not want them to come down to Tallahassee and lose them in Nebraska. And I think it's something that where Florida State can really pivot into a direction of, hey, we're taking this fully serious. I'm backing Mike Norvell with a lot of money with these assistant coaches coming in, some bigger names. And I think it just goes to show the focus and what Florida State, if they want to, the whole chatter this whole last offseason was getting out of the ACC. Got to get out of the ACC. We got to get to the Big Ten. We got to get to the SEC. Well, yeah, you got to show that on the field too as well. But number two, you got to put a lot of money where your mouth is, and going into and grabbing these two coordinators, Emily, it's going to cost a lot. But at the end of the day, you're going to get a DC. In the last 2 years, it's been a top 20, top 25 defensive coordinator on that side of the ball. And then offensively, you're bringing in a former Auburn, former UCF head coach that has shown you that he can innovate offenses and get them down the field in both explosive ways, and then in the rush game. There's definitely a lot to like. It's just us having to probably see when Florida State faces off against the Crimson Tide and early September.